what we're going to be focusing on here today is going to be working with transcripts, depositions, and creating designations, reports, and again, at the end, we'll also be going through the theater mode a little bit more, just to kind of see how we could use this for maybe presenting via trial, whether it is remote or if you're in the actual courtroom, but you have connection to internet, you'd be able to use that as well. So this is a tab that I pointed out last time, but we haven't really gone into yet, is the deponents tab. And this is where I'm just going to point out that a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be doing here is already kind of baked out, like having my documents already uploaded to the file room and organized and things like that. So these are things that we're going to kind of take for granted that we've already done. But if you have any questions, let me know. So this is where we're going to store any depositions or transcripts. We can go in here to see the deponents that have already been imported. We've got Harvey Fields, the name of the deponent, James J. Morgan, Don M. Patterson. Here is the title of the actual document transcript, which you could click into and you would actually be able to view it. To the right of that, we're going to be able to download any documents directly to our local computer. And then over here to the right, this is going to show, you see a bunch of colored dots. We'll go into that a little bit more later, but I like to kind of view this as a progress bar for how far along we are in that review process in reviewing those transcripts. Each of those is going to represent either a different designation type or a different transcript issue as we've gone through and reviewed it. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Obviously, the first thing that we're going to need to know to get to learn how to go about working with transcripts is how to go about importing them so that we can start working with them. Again, I've already got them in my file room. So once we go to deponents, what we're going to do is click on import files. And from here, we're going to be prompted to add from our file room. And I've got it nicely organized where I can find my depositions. And Thomas Osdean hasn't been brought in here yet. So I'm going to go ahead and grab his transcript and use selected file. So one of the things I like to point out here is that we have these different supported file types: text, PTF, PTX, PDF, LEF, CMS, and zip. The one that we are importing is a text file, so we should be good to go. But the ones that I like to point out here are LEF, CMS, and PDF, because LEF is short for Library Exchange File. If you ever are offered an LEF file from like a court reporter, I highly recommend taking it, because this is just kind of like the all-star A+ type of file type. Because not only is it going to have the transcription of everything that was said during that meeting, it's also going to have any exhibits linked within it already. And I'll show you how we can go about manually linking if we don't get one of these LEFs, but it's always easier. The less steps you have to do, the easier it is. So if you have this LEF, that's kind of like the gold star type of supported file type. CMS is generally going to denote that it is accompanied by a movie or a movie file or a video deposition. And so just keep an eye out. If you see CMS, in all likelihood, that's probably going to be accompanied by some sort of movie file that can be imported. And I'll show you how we can go about importing video depositions as well here, because increasingly, as we move towards a more remote world, we're getting more and more video depositions that are accompanying it, whether it's recorded via Zoom or what have you. That's going to be accompanying that transcript. And the PDF I like to point out because this is probably the oldest file type that you'll find. Is like sometimes you'll have some older transcripts that are in PDF format. And when I say older, I mean like 5 to 10 years that maybe aren't all that imaged all that well. And that's something that if you want, if you have a PDF document that's not all that imaged all that well, you might want to reach out to our engagement team. One of the services that we provide, I know that there's a lot of different services that we provide, but one of them is kind of repairing the imaging on those older PDFs. I believe they use a software called Abby Fine Reader to do so. But just wanted to point out that that's something that if you run into it, the PDF is probably one of those that could be imaged, depending on how old it is. It could not be up to snuff if you go ahead and import it. But I don't think we should have any problems with this one. The next step is going to be determining the deponent's name. The system does a really good job of grabbing that information from the deposition. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it as determined automatically, but you could say, let's do one with somebody who has already been imported, and you could choose any of those three that we've already used. You could provide a new name and type it in, but again, I'm going to leave it as determined automatically. And then you simply click import deposition transcripts. I feel like this is an easier process than maybe it is for those other, like when we went through the basic and produced data imports course. Can kind of fly through this pretty quickly, pretty easily. So while this is pre-processing and going through, I want to show you how we can go about importing a video deposition as well. So the 3 steps for that are going to be importing the actual transcript. The second step is going to be importing the video deposition within the transcript. And then the third step is going to be marrying the two together. So we will go through that here. So let's go ahead and find something in our file room. And I happen to know that Elizabeth Patrick has a CMS file. Again, it denotes that it's probably going to have a video deposition accompanying it. And here it is, that MPG file, which is going to be that. So the first step, import the actual transcript. So I'm going to go ahead and import that. And then the second step is going to be going into that actual transcript once that finishes. And we will be able to import it from within there and then marry the two. So while we wait for this to finish pre-processing, I just wanted to show you Thomas Osdeen has already finished. I can go in here and we can see the 104 pages of his deposition. I can click from one to the other. We'll play around with this in a little bit once we start actually making designations. But I want to just show you again how we can go about getting, here we can go back into Elizabeth Patrick, how we can get that video deposition in. So let me go from here to more options. So we're within the transcript, and now we're going to go ahead, go more options, edit, and this is where it's going to prompt us to import that video. So let me click import video. We can see that there are different supported different supported file types now. Instead of it being text, PDF, LEF, CMS, zip, all of that, it's MPG, MPEG, MOV, MP4, AVI, and WMV. So again, I'm going to find where I have it stored in my file room. Here's that MPG file that's going to accompany it. And we're going to use that and import the video. There we are. So that should start working its way through and importing. We can see up here the video sync information that we've got one video starting at 0 minutes and 0 seconds and ending at 3 minutes and 12 seconds for a total duration of 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Oftentimes, and in all likelihood, you're going to have a longer video deposition than this. This is just kind of used for training purposes to make sure that we have it short. We can get through this in this hour-long training. But if you have multiple videos that are tied to one transcript, like maybe 3, 4, or 5 videos, you can go ahead and import each one of them, arrange them in the order that they need to be in, and then we would go ahead and sync them. So we can see that this is processing. This shouldn't take too much longer, but I want to show you if for some reason the name was not determined automatically correctly. This is also where we could go in and edit that information. We could go in and edit and say, let's change the person's name either to somebody else who's existing, or we could click add new and then type in that deponent's name. Granted, it already did pull this information in correctly the first time, so I'm not going to worry about that. So I return back here. We can see that that video has finished importing, and I can tell because it is showing me kind of like a YouTube thumbnail that we would see. And then again, that third step, now that we have imported the transcript and imported the deposition video within the transcript, we are now going to marry the two simply by clicking Create New Presentation Video. And this is going to start a stitching process where it's essentially, I like to think of it as like threading the needle and tying those transcript together with the video so that we know when this person said this on the transcript, it ties to this point in time in the video. And so you can kind of create segments like little videos based on where those conversations started and where they end when you create your designations. So you can see that it's working its way through. Really, this process, if you were to have like 5 videos that total 8 hours, this marrying process can take anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes or so, depending on how much content there is. Obviously, this is moving much more quickly because we've only got a 3-minute and 12-second video. But what you'll notice when this process is complete is that when you return to the video deposition transcript, so right now it says that this video is being processed. Once it finishes up, you're going to see a YouTube thumbnail kind of looking thing again. And that's kind of the telltale sign that that has finished up.